So, yeah, my name is Willem Stolk. I'm a project engineer with Homes based in Auckland. Um, I've about 10 years of experience as a bridge engineer, based in South Africa, and then last 5 years in New Zealand. So today I'm going to share a bit with you guys in terms of how do we use Midas NX, how do we use the new technology to look at how we can do things better, how we can do things smarter, with API driven workflows, and Midas. So I'll just quickly have a look at what are the general challenges we have with traditional design. How do we go about making that a bit better through automation workflows? Again, just one step back. Don't forget about things that did work, and still work, and then having a look at the new technology through the likes of the API functionality, things like Grasshopper, things like results extraction in Excel, and then some lessons learned along the way. So I'm not telling anyone to suck eggs, but how do we design a bridge traditionally? It's pretty straightforward. We do a concept design. There's some constraints. It has to go there. What is the material? What is the span? We go and model it in Midas. We extract the results and we design the bridge, right? Easy. It's done. Yeah, right. It's never that easy. Um, Things always change. We started concept design. We know a few things, and as the design progress, things are always going to change. It's unavoidable. What are these changes typically? Okay, well, we've designed the bridge. Let's move it 20 meters to the west. Let's add a skew. Let's make the span longer. Let's add some more piles because we did some more geotech investigations and now we found liquefaction. Make the piles bigger. Oh, we need to increase the shoulder width on the road. Whatever that might be, we've designed the bridge. Now we have to do it again and possibly again. So it's inevitable. We don't know all the things we need to know in concept design. So how do we go about making sure that if those changes come, that are definitely going to come, how do we go about doing things smarter, doing things better to stay within our design program and our budget? We have to find some workflows and ways around that to manage that. Now the question is, what workflows? How does that incorporate into Midas? And I guess that's the point of today. I'll share a bit with how we dealt with those issues at Homes, and how we make our lives a bit easier to still deliver on time and on budget. So looking at softwares, and Pranav later will talk about this in a bit more detail, but there's a lot of softwares around that now adds the capability of linking to Midas. Things like Rhino, Grasshopper, AI, Python, you name it. There's so many tools out there that now the API functionality just broadens that horizon and capabilities. Now the big question is there a single workflow to do everything? Or is it multiple smaller workflows to do certain tasks? Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. I'll just take one step back. Like I said, before the API functionality, there were still ways of doing things better through what Midas calls MCT, which is a text-based input. And there are lots of tools that's been developed over the years that use this for better workflows. And yeah, with time, all of those automation workflows will inevitably turn into some API for automation through the new Civil NX. I'll just look at two examples of where that's used and how we've incorporated that and how we will incorporate that with the new API functionality as well. Again, we need to do things better. We need to do things smarter and faster. And we need to get rid of the repetitive nature of doing the same tasks 2, 3, 4 times as the design progress. This is a simple example of setting up a spreadsheet with inputs that can generate a model. And yeah, this works really good at the moment. That gives us a initial model. It works great. But once the model has been created, there's no further functionality, and you now need to do things manually. So with the new API functionality, this tool can be changed into something that becomes more automated, something that becomes live, and can be updated as the design progress. And like I said, inevitably, things change. This also allows us to find workflows where we can get consistency across multiple teams, and we can do things in the same way, and we can ensure better quality through the process. A second way, just that I've definitely used a lot. I don't know who of you have had to deal with geotech information and PY springs. Those things always change as the design progress, and it is very, very time-consuming process. So finding smarter ways, finding better ways to get those things updated as the design progress. And like I said, the API functionality will make that quicker and faster. And I think Pranav will have a look at that a little bit later as well. Now, to get into, like I said, the smarter things that we can do is, let's have a quick look at how we've used Grasshopper, how you use Rhino to create these workflows, to create these automations, to do things better, to do things smarter. I'll just show you guys some examples of where we have used it. It sounds simple, but we just look at a simple gantry structure across the motorway. We don't necessarily know where the gantry is going to go. We don't know the span lengths. We don't know the side constraints. So how do we create a workflow where we can automatically update geometry, which would inevitably automatically update the design, and without having to do rework, without having to resize members. So that's just a simple example of a Grasshopper script being used to generate a model where results is then, the model is automatically generated in Midas. Those results are extracted and the design is automatically updated as the site constraints change. Another very simple example, just a simple example of creating a box girder in Midas. As these things change, it is very easy to generate that if you've set up a workflow where it is a fully parametric model. Again, another just simple example, a truss bridge, same thing, an arch bridge, same thing. We can set up all these workflows where it becomes a parametric model, and we can do things smarter as things change during the design. Now, this is probably, I know Pranav will show you all of the fancy things that Midas can do. Probably one of my most, what I've used the most so far is using the results extraction tool out of Midas. Now, when we set up a model, the analysis is done in Midas. We still need to get those results out and we need to do design. As the things change, as the span length increase and the bridge gets wider or the piles get deeper, those results need to be then re-extracted and the design needs to be updated to account for those changes. So how do we do that a bit more efficiently? Midas Civil NX's API functionality makes that really nice where it automatically connects with Excel, and any changes to the model will automatically update all your results. And through that, we can just do things better. We can do things smarter as a change. A very simple example is we have a pre-stressed bridge, concrete bridge, which in New Zealand is pretty standard. That just shows a typical workflow of results being exported to Excel. And as things change, the design of the structure is automatically updated. We've used this and it is a significant time saving in rework, especially with a pretty standard way of using pre-stressed beams across New Zealand. The more we standardize that, the more we can do things more efficiently overall, instead of having to reinvent the wheel every time. So I guess from my side, a few lessons learned through the process of using these tools. And look, I'm still learning. Midas is developing on a daily basis, and they are bringing new and smarter tools with the innovation. And again, like I said earlier, there's no silver bullet in terms of doing things. Yes, workflows make it better, but you have to find ways. There's always going to be caveats. There's always going to be a missing thing here or missing thing there, but we have to be flexible to find better ways of doing it. A lesson from my side is it's a little bit better and it's a little bit easier to have smaller workflows which can do maybe individual things instead of thinking of this as a project from start to finish. We can't automate a design from concept design all the way to detailed design. We need to break this into more workable packages, changing the soil parameters or changing the geometry of the bridge or whatever that might be. If that workflow becomes too big and too large, then it does not really it becomes less and less adaptable. Like I said, yes, there's no one size fits all. No site is the same. No structure is the same. The constraints at each site is different. So we must make sure that we design these workflows and we design our whatever we do to be adaptable, to be someone else to be able to change it. Probably the biggest lesson learned from our side is when you create workflows, it is easy to create a way for you yourself to do things smarter. It's really difficult to create ways for everyone to do it smarter because everyone thinks differently about using these things. And yes, my point there on the screen, automation workflows are awesome. But we need, with every workflow, with every automation, we need to make sure that we put measures in place to make sure structural engineers still understand engineering. We can't just trust a black box. There's a famous saying, rubbish in equals rubbish out. So it doesn't matter how many workflows you do, you still need to make sure you understand what's going on as a structural engineer. So closing remarks from my side, there will always be repetitive tasks. The trick and the efficiency come from finding ways to do things better, finding ways to remove those repetitive tasks. Things will always change. That's unavoidable. But how do we as structural engineers find ways to do things better? Through Midas's API, through your own workflows, incorporate that, use the technology that is there, use the API functionality in Midas and find better ways to do things to save time. Technology is rapidly evolving. I don't have to tell any one of you that AI is developing at breakneck speed, and I'm not sure if anyone can keep up, to be honest, but we need to make sure that we evolve as well. We think about new things. How do we use this API functionality? How do we think outside the box? How do we do things differently to stay ahead of the curve, to do things better? And then my closing remark is, you can create as many workflows as you want, as many automation as you want. None of that, no AI, nothing can replace engineering judgment. And we must always make sure we understand what's happening in that big black box. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Can you just hold on? We've got a couple of questions. I'll ask the room as well, but we'll just read you the questions online if that's okay.
Can your software be used for forward works programming for critical assets such as bridges? Is it capable for modeling to establish a 4-year forward works program?
I think that's probably a better question for Pranav a bit later on. Look, I think from an API functionality, I think the possibilities is probably endless, but I don't know, Pranav, maybe you can answer that better than me.
So you mentioned, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. Can your software be used for forward works programming for critical assets such as bridges? Is it capable for modeling to establish a 4-year forward works program?
4-year forward works program, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm actually not sure what 4-year forward works program mean in the first place.
I think it's a bit more driven towards maintenance. It's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Maybe take that one offline.
Yeah. We will get back to him.
Okay. We have one other question online, and it is, does Midas Gen for building and Midas Civil already have integrated New Zealand code, seismic, winds, steel, concrete, timber, etc.?
I think, again, you have to hold that question for Pranav. He's the expert.
We'll get the questions after my presentation. Maybe
Okay.
they must be answered during the presentation.
Are there any questions for Willem?
Yeah, so you guys selected Grasshopper. What other tools did you explore before finally landing on Grasshopper, and why did you use Grasshopper over the other tools?
I mean, yeah, good question. I wouldn't say we've decided on using Grasshopper. I think it's going to come a lot down to personal preference, you know, the skills that you have personally to use these tools and create these workflows. There's also the functionality to do it through Python, right? Or through whatever tools might work for you. I think from my side, Grasshopper is easy to understand and easy to learn, but it's a bit more personal preference, I think.
So that's, do you mean that easier to use as in text-based versus visual programming?
I think maybe easier to use for me personally. Like I said, personal preference. You know, someone else might prefer to rather do it through a kind of Python based platform.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.